Okay, everybody, so we're going to get started. I just wanted to say that I'm really happy to be here with you today, and hopefully everybody can see my screen and you can hear me. I'm going to keep the video on just for the first couple slides, and then I'm going to be turning the video off and then putting it back on for our demo when we start talking about exercises and stretches. So first, to start off, I just want to say thanks to Trent Athletic Center. We are partnering with them to do some workshops from September until December, so definitely keep an eye out for those because we're going to try and do about one a month on various topics. So today we're going to be talking about workstation fitness and ergonomics and how you can set up your workstation to fit you better and to be more comfortable. I know lots of people have been working from home or studying from home, not necessarily being in the classroom or at work. So I know there's a lot of different variables that come with that you may, have better access to if you're like in an actual classroom or on campus at school, or if you're in, your regular work office. So when we go through that kind of stuff, that stuff is a little bit trial and error, but we'll do the best we can. And if you guys have questions, you can always pop them in the chat, and then we'll go over them at the end. So just to get started here, I'll tell you guys a little bit about me. So I am Kim. I work at Trent Health in Motion in the Athletic Center here at Trent University, and I work here as a registered kinesiologist. So I work part-time here, and then I also work as an ergonomics specialist at Ross Memorial Hospital in Lindsay. So I have a bit of a background in two different areas of kinesiology, some ergonomic stuff and then some rehabilitation stuff, and have a pretty extensive background in fitness. I did my schooling at Fleming College in Peterborough here for fitness and health promotion, and then I did my kinesiology degree at the University of Ontario in Oshawa. So just to give you a little bit more of an idea of what I do here at Trent Health in Motion. So we have a hydrotherapy pool. So I'm the one who sees everybody for hydrotherapy, which is great. We have direct access into that pool. So we can do a lot of different things in there. We see a lot of different types of clients and rehab different things, some lower body, some upper body, a little bit of everything. And then also we have launched a clinical conditioning program within the last year. So I'm the one who runs that, and that is more of like a fitness-based approach, working with some specialized population. So people, with osteoporosis or arthritis, but just also with people who are looking to get back into fitness, from a time away, or looking to kind of build their own exercise program and to take next steps to make it a little bit more challenging. So just to give you guys an idea of what we're going to be talking about today, which is probably, what you saw when you signed up for this webinar, we're going to be talking about the benefits of exercise. We're going to talk about desk ergonomics and how you can make your desk area more comfortable for yourself, talking about sedentary interruptions, and then we're going to go through a workstation exercise routine and exercises and stretches you can do at your desk that don't require that much space. And then we'll finish off with a question and answer period at the end. So like I said, if you guys do have questions, you're more than welcome to pop them in the chat, and then we'll go over those at the end. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing my video and we'll get going on this stuff, and then I'll see you back sharing my video when we go over all the exercises. So first, talking about the benefits of exercise, I think that this is something that, most people probably have a good idea of benefits of exercises, but I broke them down a little bit further into physical and then psychological benefits. So I'm not really going to go in too deep to each point today, but I just kind of do want to give you a good idea of how exercise benefits you in all these different areas. So just a couple talking points on each. So I think normally when people think of, physical benefits of exercises, they think, strengthening bones, strengthening muscles, and becoming stronger. So not necessarily do you normally think of other benefits such as things that you can't see. So some of them are listed here. So reducing your risk of cardiovascular disease. So exercise can for sure be very beneficial for you for strengthening your heart and keeping all of those arteries clear of any sort of plaque that feeds your heart, so that your heart can work more efficient. And this might not be applicable to you right now, depending, on how old you are, but it's something that can be applicable to you down the road if, you're not maintaining an exercise routine, or being physically active, or also, good nutrition also comes into play. Next, so reducing your risk of type 2 diabetes. I think this is a big one. We're definitely seeing people more who are younger suffer from type 2 diabetes. So there's type 1 and type 2. Normally you see the type 1 in people who are younger, and type 2 in people who are older. But basically exercise can actually help you control your blood glucose levels, which is all the sugar in your blood. And when they're too high, when your blood sugar levels are too high, then your insulin has a hard time helping you get into your cells. So exercise actually helps promote the uptake of any of your sugars into your cells and helps level out your blood glucose. So like I said, strengthening your bones and your muscles, I think that one's pretty self-explanatory. The more force and demand you have on your bones and muscles, the stronger they're going to become. The more dense your bones are going to become, and then the stronger your muscles will be. Also talking about weight management. So weight management could be, reducing your weight, trying to maintain the weight that you're at, or actually gaining weight. So again, diet and nutrition also go hand in hand with exercise. But it's important to be physically active so that you can maintain a healthy weight. Exercise also helps lower blood pressure and cholesterol. I kind of talked a little bit about that for reducing your risk of cardiovascular disease. But basically, when you're exercising, it's going to promote good cholesterol. So that's called your HDLs. And then it's going to decrease your bad cholesterol, which is your LDLs, which actually clog your arteries. So if your heart is stronger and it's more efficient, then you're going to decrease your blood pressure, because your heart isn't going to be working as hard to pump that blood out and putting that pressure against your arteries. So if it can be more efficient, more blood will be pumped out per beat, and it won't have to pump it out as hard. So increasing energy. I know a lot of people think that exercising for sure could be, fatiguing and tiring, which it is, and you might feel tired after you exercise, which is totally common. But if you can be on a consistent basis of exercising throughout the week, and having that sort of routine, it can actually help you feel more energized. It can also help you sleep better, so you can fall asleep faster and get better quality of sleep. And then also help manage your stress. So, as a student or as a working professional, life can be stressful for sure. So, and that can be fatiguing. So exercising can be a really healthy coping mechanism for stress, anxiety and depression, anything like that. And then it also just helps with your O2. So your oxygen, if you have increased oxygen to those muscles and organs, you're definitely going to feel more energized. Decreasing your risk of developing osteoporosis. So this kind of links in with strengthening your bones. Again, something you may not be experiencing right now, but something you may experience later in life. So if you can build strong bones now when you're younger, it will help you maintain that bone strength as you get older and kind of steer clear of developing it or delaying that onset of osteoporosis. And then the last point, which really kind of encompasses all of these points, is it improves your ability to perform daily activities. And so this is something just as simple as like doing laundry, or, picking your kids up, or cousins or whatever, walking up and down stairs, getting up off the ground. So, if you're stronger and your bones are stronger, you're at a healthy weight, all of those things come into play on how everything you perform in your day will feel easier. So next, I have a couple points here just on psychological benefits. I know that these times have been pretty stressful for people given the current pandemic, and just, there's been a lot of change with school and work, doing it virtually versus being in person. So that can be stressful, but exercise, like I said, can be a really, really good tool and a healthy tool to help cope with some of those things. So it improves your mood. So you guys have all probably heard of, you know, when you exercise, you feel awesome after, and that's because it releases endorphins. So you might feel like a high after you go for a really good run or have a really good workout. And those endorphins make you feel energized, they make you feel happy, and it triggers those positive feelings. So it can definitely improve your mood. I put boost energy on here as well, like I said, because, you know, it also comes in that psychological benefit of helping you manage stress, which can make you feel more energized and not, you know, as fatigued. And again, like I said, improves your sleep. So it reduces your anxiety and depression. Again, like I said, exercise can be a really good tool for helping cope with any sort of stress, anxiety, depression. It can help as an outlet, and it's a healthy way. Enhances your self-esteem. This one's pretty self-explanatory, but I mean, there's a lot of reasons why it could enhance your self-esteem. It can improve your body image. It leaves you physically feeling stronger, which can definitely be empowering for people. And then also just creating an exercise routine or, you know, regimen and sticking to it. It definitely gives you a sense of accomplishment. And just setting those realistic goals, because it never feels good when you set goals and then you don't reach them. Then you get really down on yourself. So setting realistic goals and reaching them can definitely enhance your self-esteem and make you feel good about what you're doing. So it improves cognitive function. So increasing the blood flow to your brain when you're exercising, your blood is moving to all of those vital organs, into those muscles and into your brain. And this can actually lead to improved memory, thinking, and learning. And also because when you exercise, it increases those neurotransmitters in your brain. So the serotonin and the norepinephrine, this can also boost your brain processing and your mood. So it can be helpful when you're trying to study or working on a certain task, which is what we're going to get into later. It can improve, you know, your brain function. And then lastly, like I said, it definitely improves your sleep. It can trigger those feelings of drowsiness at the end of the day, even if you did exercise earlier in the morning. It helps you fall asleep faster and have better quality of sleep. And with that being said, it's important to keep in mind that, you know, some of us might be kept awake by exercise. So making sure you're not planning your exercise at the end of the day when it may in fact keep you up. Some people are more sensitive to this than others, but if you're one of those people that exercise is going to keep you awake and you're working out at like 8 or 9 o'clock at night, maybe about thinking putting that scheduled into earlier into your day. So that talks about the benefits of exercise, which I kind of just wanted to briefly go over those ones. And now we're going to get into some desk ergonomics and how you can set up your workstation and what you have at home to better fit your comfort. So just to give you an idea of what ergonomics is, so this is relating to or designed for efficiency and comfort in the working environment. So this could be, you know, working at home, studying at home, in whatever environment. And it's really important too, I always try and say this and educate people that you want to set up your workstation to fit you. So you don't want to try and set yourself up to fit your workstation, because if you're going to be doing that, you're more likely to be in awkward positions, and then that's going to lead to discomfort, which can lead to pain and a lot of other issues. So thinking about setting up your workstation, whatever that may look like, if you're at a desk, if you're at a kitchen table, to fit you and bring things closer to you so you're the most comfortable. And just to keep in mind too, like these are tips and they may not work for everybody. You know, ergonomics can be a really trial and error thing. Everybody is different shapes and sizes. So these are general guidelines, but definitely play around with what you have available at your house, at the school, or at work, and see what's going to work for you and be the most comfortable. So just talking about the monitor, I know some people have laptops or some people may be working with a monitor and keyboard. We're going to kind of go over both of those and see how we can give you some tips to better fit you. So monitor, when you're thinking about the monitor, you want to make sure that The height of your monitor is basically at your eye level, maybe a little bit below, but you want to try and keep it in a position where your neck is going to be in a neutral position. So your eyes aren't looking too far up or too far down. So trying to reduce that flexion or extension in your neck, which, you know, sometimes in sustained positions, that can be really uncomfortable. Also talking about your monitor, making sure it's about an arm's length away. Sometimes monitors or laptops can be farther away, maybe not necessarily laptops, but monitors. And then what happens is you start to get pretty bad eye strain, or you start perching forward on your seat, which can also put you in a really weird position because you're trying to move yourself to get closer to the monitor when it just may take you bringing that monitor or laptop a little bit closer to you. And then also just generally having it right in front of you rather than off to the side of your desk. Depending on where you're working, if you're from home, you know, you're a student, or if you're working at work and you have a weird desk or you want to have papers beside you, trying to get yourself in a position where it's right in front of you. It's not off to the side where you're avoiding any awkward positioning or, you know, holding your head too far right for long periods of time. So moving on to the keyboard and mouse. So if you are using a keyboard, some things that can be helpful are having a wrist pad of sorts. I know some people have discomfort with any sort of like contact stress. So if you're typing for a long period of time, that can be uncomfortable. So putting some sort of like wrist pad or pillow underneath there can also ease that discomfort. And really in general, just making sure your wrists are in a neutral position. I know some keyboards have those little legs. And then talking about a laptop, laptops are a little bit harder to set up because the keyboard and monitor are attached. But I mean, same tips kind of go for that. So if you are using a laptop, make sure it's close enough to you, you know, that you're not straining your eyes or leaning forward or perching yourself forward in any weird position. And then also I put the point in here too of just adjusting the light on your laptop. Some laptops will adjust automatically, others won't. So just making sure, you know, if you are in a really dark room, that your laptop, the brightness or the screen of your monitor isn't too bright, because that can cause eye discomfort or eye strain. And also just talking about screen time in general, I always try and tell people follow the 20-20-20 rule. So every 20 minutes, look 20 feet away for a full 20 seconds. And that'll give your eyes a break from looking at the monitor. And it may be helpful to set something like an alarm on your phone, a reoccurring alarm, just to make sure that you are doing that. But it can be helpful with reducing like any sort of eye discomfort. Talking about your chair, some of you may have access to, you know, like an actual office chair, others may not. Maybe you're using a kitchen chair. But just trying to sit in a chair that is going to be supportive for you. And if it's not, trying to make it supportive. So you can do this by adding a pillow, you know, underneath your legs where you're seated on it, or behind to give you some low back support. These are things that you're going to have to play around with yourself and see what feels best. But normally having some sort of low back support just in the small of your back will help with some of that discomfort. And also when we're thinking about a chair, if you do have an office chair or seated on a kitchen chair, making sure that it's not cutting you off at the back of your legs. So when you're seated in this and the seat pan is too long, it can actually cut the back of your legs off and can be really uncomfortable, and you can start having hip and knee pain. So making sure there's at least like 2 to 3 fingers and that you don't have that contact. If you do have a chair that is height adjustable, it's ideal for your feet to be on the floor, just so that you have support underneath your feet. And then also ideal that you set yourself up to be at eye level with your screen like we discussed. If in the fact that, you know, your seat doesn't adjust, but it's at pretty good eye level for your monitor or laptop, then you can use some sort of footrest. That can be helpful in giving you some comfort and some support under your feet. You could use books or you can use a box. Lighting. So lighting is something to be aware of, and I think this is one thing that is kind of forgotten about, along with talking about like eye strain and eye discomfort. You know, you're looking at a screen the whole time, so you don't want to make it harder for yourself to see your screen. So things to keep in mind are of just being aware, you know, is there glare on my screen? Is there a window that's open that I can close to help me see the screen better? Where are you situated and in what room? Just kind of playing around with the lights. So whether it's opening the windows or closing them or moving positions in the room that you're in. And that's, again, trial and error. If you have a dimmer in the room that you're in, that's great. You can play around with that. Sometimes task lighting, like a little lamp beside you, can be helpful rather than overhead lighting. And then again, really effective is using that 20-20 rule. So every 20 minutes, looking 20 feet away for 20 seconds. And the last point here is just talking about the footrest. So like I said, if your chair is not height adjustable, a footrest can be helpful. So just using books or a box or something you can put your feet on to give you some comfort so that your legs aren't hanging or you're not up on your tippy toes. It's ideal to have your feet at least supported in some way. So with all of that said, and you can set all of those different equipment pieces up to try and fit you, the most important thing you can do for yourself is to take breaks often. So that is what we're going to go over next, talking about sedentary interruptions. If you haven't heard of that term before, it's basically just taking breaks and taking them while you're studying or while you're working so that you're getting up and moving. So there's increasing evidence that sedentary behavior is actually a health risk. And that may be why, you know, we see more often, and probably within the last like 5 years, a lot more often, sit to stands come into the workplace, you know, moving your whole office or workstation around so that you can get up and walk over to the printer rather than the printer being right beside you. So it's really, really important to get up and move and to take breaks. And it's important for all the reasons that we discussed in those past slides, right? All of those physical and psychological reasons. So the benefits of taking breaks when you're working for a long period of time, I've listed a couple right here. So it increases your focus. So giving you breaks to mentally and physically remove yourself from what you're doing or what you're working on a certain task will actually help keep you more focused when you go back to that task. So it just gives your body and your mind a break from what you're doing, kind of like a reset, right? And then this goes into increased productivity so that, you know, because you're taking those breaks, you're actually going to be more productive when you go back to doing that certain task than you would have been if you didn't take that break. Also decreases absenteeism. You hear this term more in the working force. So basically this just means that it decreases the amount of time that you're away from school or work without a good reason. So you're less absent. You're more likely, you know, to sit down and actually do the work or to sit down and actually attend the class if you're giving yourself proper breaks. And then it improves your metabolic health, and this links back to, you know, that physical piece. So having healthy blood sugar levels or triglycerides or cholesterol or a healthy blood pressure. And all of those factors relate to risks for developing diseases or disorders. So looking at the frequency of how often you would want to take breaks. So about every 50 to 60 minutes, so about every hour, trying to take a 5 to 10 minute break. Which I totally get is easier said than done. And that's why I put a couple tools to succeed here on the right-hand side. So I often encourage people to set a timer on their phone or on their laptop, on their computer, so that it's a reoccurring timer. So you don't even have to think about it. Every hour it's going to go off. It's going to remind you, I need to get up and I need to move. I need to take a break, get a drink of water. And this can be really helpful. I know some people have like Apple Watches. You could maybe set a timer on there too, you know, just to schedule those in through your day. And then also scheduling blocks of work. So there's nothing worse than taking a break right in the middle when you're, you know, really focused and trying to get through a certain task and your buzzer is going off, that you need to get up and move. So plan your day and your study time. So making sure that, you know, what you're getting done in those blocks of time are realistic, and that you can stop at a good point, and not be stopping at a point where it's going to be hard to come back to later. So just making yourself set up for success so that you can set those realistic goals, you can reach them through the day, or time period, whether it's 2 or 3 hours that you're sitting down to study and doing work, and making sure that you're actually planning it. And if you're planning it, you're more likely to be successful. Okay, so I'm going to share my video, and then we're going to get into the exercises and stretches for what you can do at your workstation with limited space. So I have a workstation here behind me. Hopefully everybody can see that. So we'll go through the exercises, and then we're going to go through the stretches just quickly on proper technique, and kind of what to look for when you're doing them. So I didn't really put guidelines down here for how many you should be doing. You're going to get that on your handout, but basically it's up to you. If you're taking 5 minutes, trying to pick, 5 exercises that you can do mixed with stretches, so 5 or 6 exercises and stretches you can do within that time frame. And if you're breaking for 10 minutes, maybe you're doing, the full 6 and 6. So it's really up to you. There'll be more guidance on the handout, but completing about 10 repetitions of every exercise is ideal. And the more time you're going to break, the maybe more sets you can do versus, if you're only breaking for 5 minutes, maybe just doing 1 set of each. So we'll start with marching. It's pretty self-explanatory. Marching on the spot here. I'm going to step back a little bit so you can see me. So just kind of getting moving, marching. You can do some high knees. And for this one, you really don't have to do 10 of them. You can do 20 or 30 seconds of these ones, marching on the spot, just to kind of get your blood moving and get your blood flowing, and kind of wake you up a little bit more, because definitely sitting down for a long period of time can be draining and fatiguing. And then for squats for the next one, I'll do it for me from the side so you can see. So if you have a chair, you can squat down to your chair, or you don't have to. I like to squat down to the chair just because it gives you a good idea that you're reaching that depth for every repetition, and you're being consistent, and you're not cheating as you're getting tired and not going down as far. So feet about hip width or between shoulder width apart, and you're gonna push your hips back, sitting down like you're about to sit into the chair, and then standing back up. So like I said, you can do 10 repetitions of these, making sure that you're pushing your hips back and you're not sitting too far forward. What you don't want to do with squats is sitting far forward into your knees. So if you're here and you're sitting this way, away from your chair or away from whatever you're trying to sit back to, you want to try and reposition yourself and really make the movement more through your hips, like you're going to sit on a chair. So the next one is push-ups. I mean, you can do this one on the ground, or you can do it from your desk. I'm going to show you from the desk, just because push-ups can be really challenging from the ground, and a desk is kind of a good medium for people. So hands are going to be right underneath your shoulders, feet are back, and you're kind of in this like plank position, lowering yourself all the way down, and then pushing yourself back. And again, repeating 10 repetitions of these. Just nice and slow and controlled. I usually try and do 2 seconds down, 2 seconds up. Calf raises. So this one, I'll just put the down a little bit farther so you can see my feet. So this one, you're going to stand about hip width apart. And then you're just basically rising up onto the balls of your feet and controlling back down. And you can follow the same repetition range. This one's really good. It gets all that blood pumping from your lower extremities up. So it can be really, really helpful with blood circulation. And just making sure when you are doing this one, you're not swaying too far forward. So see how I'm swaying? You want to try and do it so that you're just going up and down. So tricep dips, you can do this off of a chair, or you can do this off of a desk. Obviously, if you're doing it off of a chair, you want to make sure that it's a stable chair, it's not on wheels. The option is there, you can do it off of the desk or a hard surface. I'll do it off of the chair to show you guys. So your hands are going to be behind you. You're going to walk your feet out a little bit. And all you're doing is dropping through your elbows, down, and coming back up. Again, just nice and slow and controlled. 2 seconds down, 2 seconds up. If you want to make it a little bit harder, you can even walk your feet out so that they're straight, and that's going to make it feel a little bit more challenging. So the last one for our exercises is split squats. So this one, people call it split squats, some people call it just, stationary lunges. Basically, it's a lunge on the spot. So you're going to have 1 foot in front of you, 1 foot behind you, a nice wide stance. Toes are pointed forward, hips are in line. They're not doing any sort of like weird wonky thing. You want to have them straight forward. And all you're doing is you're dropping this back knee right down to the ground, or as far as you can go, because you got to get back up. So you don't want to go down too far, or else you're going to end up kneeling on the ground. So especially with this foot too, I get this question a lot, like, can this back foot be up? It most definitely can be up. You don't have to have it flat on the ground. That would be really hard to try and do a lunge with your foot on the ground. So this heel can stay up the whole entire time. And then you're repeating 10 repetitions on one side, switch, 10 repetitions on the other side. So that's it from the front view. Again, my hips are nice and square and forward. If you need to, you can always use something as support beside you to help you down and get back up. So those are the exercises. Now we'll go through some of the stretches. You can do these stretches seated, or you can do this standing, but I'm going to show you them standing for the purpose of today, because it's about getting up and moving. So hamstring stretches to start. So this one is going to target the back of your legs. And like I said, you really don't need a lot of space for this. So one toe is going up, the other leg is your supporting leg, and then you're going to be stretching this straight leg. So just gently hinging at your hips, trying to keep that back in that neutral position, and just coming down until you feel a little bit of discomfort. So you really just want to feel a little bit of a pull through the back, nothing too intense. If it's painful, you've gone too far, and then holding it there for 20 or 30 seconds. And then you're going to get switching sides, straighten that other leg, and coming back down into the stretch. Again, nothing too discomforting, just a little bit of a pull and holding it there for 20 or 30 seconds. So quadriceps, the next stretch, that's going to be the front of your thigh. This one you can do holding on to something because you're going to be on one leg. So definitely make sure you have something beside you if you don't have great balance. So you're standing, grabbing one foot and bringing it back. The idea is not to have your leg out here. You want to have your knees close in together and your foot behind you. So if you're not able to do this one or grab your foot, which, some people can, and that's totally fine. What some people do, you can wrap a towel or something like a band around you and hold that band, or you can just put it on your chair. So you can be here, placing it on your chair. If this doesn't feel like enough of a stretch, like if this would be too easy because the chair is too low, you can just lean down into it a little bit and then hold that position until you feel that stretch through there. Coming back up, switching sides, again, repeating and holding for that period of time. So figure 4, that one is going to stretch your piriformis, which is a little muscle just kind of in through your glute. So that one we're going to do standing too. You're just crossing one leg over, and then you're sitting back in your chair. Again, the farther you go down, the farther this knee drops down, it's going to feel more intense. So just going until you feel a little bit of discomfort, but it should not be painful. Up, and then you can switch sides. This one you might see too. People do it seated. You can do it laying down. But like I said, for the purpose of today's workshop, we'll show you it standing. So before we go over the wrist stuff, we'll just do the trunk and the cat and cow while I'm over here. So the trunk rotation, is just seated forward. Maybe I'll face you guys so you can see. So you're just sitting up nice and tall, and then you're gonna do rotating to one side, and you're gonna hold it. So bringing your arms over to one side, holding it here. Trying to keep your hips forward. Coming back to neutral. And then when you're ready, heading over to that other side. This one's just gonna help stretch out your back and stretch out your trunk and get some mobility through there if you've been seated for a long period of time. It's important to kind of get things moving that way. And then cat and cow is a really helpful one. This one's really good for spine mobility and can help relieve some of that like aches and pains that you feel through your low back or through your mid back. So this one I'll do from this side so you can see. So if you're doing it seated, hands are on your knees, and basically it's called cat and cow, but you're just, or cat and camel, you might have heard before. You're gonna be sitting back, nice and slow, and almost like you're pulling your spine to the opposite wall behind you, holding there a couple seconds, and then rotating the opposite way, and pushing your belly button out and letting your head drop back. So just nice and slow and controlled. And then coming back. So that's another one you can do. You may see people doing it on all fours or standing. If you prefer to do it standing, you can definitely do that. You would just need to hold on to a surface. So you can hold on to the back of your chair, let's say, and then in that same position, curl, stretching through your spine, and then extending. All right, so that one's the cat and cow. So the last one is for your wrists, which if you're doing a lot of typing or sitting at a workstation, can be helpful in relieving some of that discomfort. So for wrist flexors and extensors, one hand is coming out and just gently applying some pressure on that hand. Holding it there for about 20 to 30 seconds. Repeating on the other side. Gentle pressure. Shouldn't be anything that's too painful. And then going back to that same hand and now doing it the opposite direction, pointing your fingers down, applying gentle pressure. So this one's nice because it's going to stretch all those muscles through here and through here, which can get really stiff when you're typing or you're seated at the computer, right? And you're doing computer work. Other wrist ones you can do is just wrist circles. Those ones are really good just to get things moving around. And those ones, again, you can just do for 20 or 30 seconds. So like I said on the handout, it's going to give you an idea of how many repetitions. So I would say about 8 to 10 repetitions. And then depending on how long you're going to be breaking for, doing 1 to 2 sets of them. And then, you know, you don't have to do all of these exercises, but potentially picking like 5 to 6 of them would be ideal. So this slide just gives you a summary of what we kind of covered today and what's going to be covered on your handout. Hopefully I gave you guys some good tips on, you know, ways that you can make your workstation more comfortable, tips on exercises that you can do, you know, implementing them in your break times or at the end. But like I said, the most important thing to keep in mind is that you're taking breaks, and there's so many reasons to do that physically and psychologically. So I'm just gonna check here to see if you guys had any questions. I'm gonna stop sharing. So I don't see any questions. Oh, maybe I do. Okay, so no questions, that's great. But you know, in the case that you do think of anything from now, like after the presentation, and kind of want to, oh, sorry. And want to find out a little bit more, you can always find us at trenthealthinmotion.ca. We put our phone number here, and then you can also find us on Instagram. We're always checking that, and that's a really good resource that you can use. There's lots of different topics on there. And we also have online booking. So in the case that you do want to book any sort of appointments with us, we're definitely online, or you can just call in. Well, I just wanted to say thanks so much for having me. Hopefully you guys learned some good tips on exercises you can do and desk ergonomics. And I hope you have a good night. Bye, guys.